Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to another episode of the Backlog Tackle, my underconsumption challenge because I'm in my use what you have era. I was watching another underconsumption video and they were reacting to TikToks and a TikToker said that and I was like, yes. I've never considered myself to be in an era, but we'll count that for this one. If you are new here, this is basically where I make a point of using up the consumables in my house that aren't usually in something like a project pan. So things like yarn, fabric, notebooks, and nail polish, which I guess is in some project pans, and basically just trying to use up everything around me and really focus on that, not just because this stuff should be used up because I've already spent money on it and I own it, but also because we need to be really frugal this year, and this probably should have come sooner. I skipped the update in May just because it was the last month of the school year and it's a very stressful time and it's a lot easier to get things settled in summer break. So let's talk about everything that I've been working through and reorganizing and the very big wins and some little fails along the way. So the theme for this episode is big wins, little fails. So let's start with the big win when it comes to my yarn stash first. The biggest win is this sucker. You may remember this from the thumbnail, I think, of episode 1. This thing used to be chock full of tangled up and partially done whips, just all kinds of yarn up in this with very little organization, and it is now empty. It took me forever to do that, just because I had to do so much untangling and frogging and rewinding, and it was a lot. Now, it's not going to get refilled with yarn just because it finally occurred to me that while this was originally used to give me yarn as a Christmas present back once upon a time, it was filled with skeins for Christmas. This weaving is really bad for yarn. It gets caught really easily. So I might end up using this for something else, but we're definitely not using it for yarn. Instead, I am using ye good old shoebox. And I have so much scrap yarn. I did not realize how much I had and how many colors I had it in. So when I am working on the book cover blanket, my cursed project that is keeping me from really being able to stash down, I'm going to look to the scraps first, and then once that project is finally done, I swear I will finish it this year, I am just going to go ham on a scrap blanket and get a lot of those taken out. Now, the little loss, the little failure here is that I am going to be donating some yarn to the thrift store. And I mentioned before in other episodes that I did not want to donate stuff to thrift stores because, contrary to popular belief, that's not the most sustainable option, because thrift stores are often forced to throw away a lot of the stuff they get just because they're overwhelmed by the sheer mountains of stuff. However, I have realized that there is a certain weight of yarn, I don't know what kind because half of these aren't labeled, but it's just too thin. I am a bigger, chunkier yarn girly, and I have come up with so many projects, and whenever I try to work with a certain weight of yarn, I just hated the feeling, and I can't get past that. Crochet is very slow and methodical and takes a really long time, so if you hate the feeling of what you're doing, you're kind of screwed. So I do have a couple bags here of yarn that is just because of sensory stuff, not because I can't find uses for it. I don't have uses for most of what's in here, but I can find them because I know I can work with that material, and this stuff is just too small. I think I have some old tapestry yarn that probably came in one of those big thrift store grab bags of yarn with a bunch of different stuff, and so I'm hoping that already having it packaged in bags will make it easier for the store to use again, but for the most part, that has helped. I have a little more work to do. Can I get them out? Let me see. I still have my giant old mattress bag full of yarn. Now, if you remember correctly, it used to be like almost all the way up here. So a lot of this hasn't been used up directly. Rather, the reorganization, a lot of it has either gotten used or has gotten like somewhere in here, or I've used it up enough that the scraps are in the shoebox. But I still have a lot of unraveling and rewinding to do. And I might have bought some new skeins. I don't remember how many in the past 2 months, but yes, I had to go pay my respects to Joanne and get at least a couple things. But worst comes to worst, I will just toss them on the scrap blanket. I'm doing a lot of blankets right now, actually, but also a lot of other new fun stuff. It's definitely going to be a while. I am trying to make it so that I will just accept that I can't color match, and I'm not going to get the same exact color for certain projects, and I'll have to just accept the color changing over the course of the project, just so we can get this somewhat under control. But it's in sight now. Like the end goal is now on the horizon. Just gotta run for it. Next up, we have notebooks, and I actually do have the notebook version of an empty, which I guess would be a full, and that is this one. This was one of the ones where when I went through and I ripped out all of the pages that could be recycled, this is what I had left here. And so I said, okay, we're going to use that up over summer break. And we did. Everything in it is used, every piece. So that can all be recycled. And I switched to another notebook for my summer to-do lists, mostly because my summer to-do lists require a much more full page of a notebook. However, when I get back to work in August, I will likely switch to a smaller notebook for my, shorter to-do lists after work, and only go back to this on other breaks where I need the structure of scheduling out my entire day to keep my brain from screaming at me and getting into a weird mental haze. Another little win here is I have continued on with my fun story. You may remember from the last episode, this is a notebook that I stumbled across that only has a singular story, began from the beginning, which is very rare. Mostly my notebooks are filled with free write snippets from a ton of stories. So I wanted to continue in this one. And I was reminded that how much I can handwrite in this in one sitting is entirely dependent on the pen. So I've been very specific about the pens that are for this one because they increase the amount I can write before my hand starts cramping. And I am enjoying it. I recently came up with a new plot twist for this part, even though I'm still not even at the big inciting incident yet. I'm still at the setup just because of how slow handwriting goes, but it's been a lot of fun. I haven't decided what I'm going to do if I actually do finish this thing, because no way will I have finished the story by the time I get to the final thing of this. Maybe that's when I'll switch it to like a typed document. Maybe it's when I'll just pick up another notebook and keep physically writing it. I am having to fight myself to be like, Don't think about the querying. Don't think about this ever going out into the public ever. It's just for you. You just want it for yourself. Okay, don't think about what would work best for an audience. This is just for you. It's so hard. But I actually have been doing some querying with some other work. I have written several short stories since that last episode where I talked about losing my love of writing and submitting those. And I am under no delusions that there's any good chance that any of my short stories will get picked for their anthologies, just because those anthologies get a ton of entries. But I did enjoy the creative process of getting a spark based on a concept of, this story needs to have a seemingly innocuous decision that leads to big consequences. This story needs to be all about a door that opens. Like, that kind of stuff is a lot of fun to work with. I'm currently doing research on what it's like to live in an Antarctic research center for a story. So that just the amount of creative spark that those short stories have brought back to me is enough for right now. That being said, though, I am querying indie presses, working on building up a list. I am bummed because as I was looking at one that I wanted to query to, I realized I had just missed their submission window. But the submission window is actually kind of helpful because you can't be freaking out about it. There's literally no querying to freak out about because you can't do it yet. Indie presses are very different than lit agents when it comes to querying, because they're only open for 2 months of the year, if that, to queries, sometimes only every other year. So you really can't be freaking out because there's nothing you can do to freak out over, which has been very helpful for me. Very surprising. Although at some point I do still think I'll end up self-publishing most of my work. I just don't have the funds for that right now. Regardless, I am so much more positive than I was in that last episode. I appreciate everyone that sat through the downerness of it. We are once again on the annoying writer kid upswing. I might take my fun story to the local cafe and or bookstore and write in public just to be obnoxious. I don't know. We do have nail polish next, and it's really hard to show any progress in nail polish because it's just so slow. I don't have an empty in the top coat. I don't have an empty in the nail polish remover, despite the fact that I'm using these on a weekly basis. I have really been enjoying it to the extent that when I am not able to do it at my usual time on Sundays, I will like make a note of doing it on Monday instead, or maybe doing it a day early. Like, I always want to do that refresh for my nails. Although they're not like the cutest right now, there is some chipping. But one of the fun parts about this is because we are trying to be as eco-friendly as possible, we don't use Q-tips or cotton balls or whatever to remove the nail polish. So I've been using rags, and as a result, you can kind of see like all of the colors of the old nail polishes. I'm turning a bunch of rags into mini tie-dye strips, which is a lot of fun to see. But the biggest win, I think, for this one would be these suckers. I originally tried using this one when we were starting to get into the warmer months, you know, bright orange for those good summery vibes. I fucking hated using this so much because it was so thin and it took like 5 coats and you could still see like everything underneath. I was so over it. It peeled off so fast, even with the top coat. And I'm like, no, we're not doing this. But again, we're trying not to throw anything away. And so I pulled out the other one that was the same brand, which I assumed would also be the same issue. And I was like, okay, what can I do with these? Can these work as paint? Just like standard straight up paint. And I tried it, and it actually works surprisingly well once you get used to using a very tiny brush and essentially having to work very quickly because it will dry very fast. But also I kind of like the brush stroke aesthetic of it, and I am very close. It's so hard to tell with this one, but I am like very bottom there. This one I have a lot more. I think I need to like stop doing the candle motifs and go for some more bigger sun motifs to get that one used up. But like, I was enjoying that so much that I'm like, I might be on the lookout for other cheaper nail polishes too. Or if there's a color I just really don't like on me from my collection, might just start using that as art supplies. That's been a lot of fun to be like, okay, what art can I make to use these up? Which in general I've discovered is a better way to make art for me, rather than just like sitting down and be like, all right, now do an art, which is so open-ended that you get caught in choice paralysis. It's more like, okay, what do I want to do to use up these things or to play off of this thing is a lot easier. But I am proud of this, and I'm pretty sure I could get both of these empty by the end of the year. So technically I could have some nail polish empties, just, you know, not in the traditional way. Up next is the coloring books, and this is another case of big wins, little fails, because I have discovered that I actually do really enjoy coloring. I need to take them out of the coloring book, I realized, and have just that one to focus on. But really, I've noticed that I do have a very specific coloring style. I prefer whole design, brightly colored, filling the entire page designs. Especially with markers, although sometimes we will do a little bit of colored pencils. But this has been like probably my favorite part about all of this. Yeah, I did this one for Pride specifically. So that has been a lot of fun, and I do have this little folder for all of the ones that I'm working on. The one downside is that I have bought more coloring supplies. I specifically wanted more water-based fine line type markers because I wanted more for the mandala type ones with the really, really thin lines in them. And of course, because thrift stores, I ended up buying like a big pack of just a bunch of different coloring supplies. So now I have everything organized out, which it's kind of silly that it took me this long. Again, it's like with the yarn, I realized that like I should have done way more organizing up front to make sure that like I knew what I had. But this is all of my coloring pencils, and or I have some like the Crayola twistable things in there. These are all of my water-based markers, and then here we have all of the alcohol-based markers. And none of these are fully like complete sets. I don't have a chunky water-based black marker. And I wish there was a way to like just buy a single one, right? Because I don't want to buy another set of anything. So for the most part, that's kind of like a coloring thing banned. No more coloring utensils. The other little fail here is, yes, once again, we are donating a little bit more to the thrift store. The more that I've colored and I realize what I like in a coloring book, the more I've realized I had coloring books that just weren't my style at all. I don't like the hyper realistic ones. I don't like the little scenes. I like more simplistic designs that aren't too overwhelming or have too much white space. So that also tells me that I know what I need in a coloring book when I eventually go get one. But I came very close. I came very close to buying a new one because it had the full page geometric mandala-like designs that I like, but the pages were not perforated. They were not easy to tear out, and I prefer my pages tear-outable. And the coloring books that I have left, I have plenty. As you'll see here, like, they all follow the specific vibe. They're even like similar in size. They're so similar in vibe, I had to double check that they weren't done by the same publisher. So I am not going to be buying any more coloring books like this at all. The big image ones. The only coloring books I would buy is if they were like this one. Mandalas with intricate but still like easy to make out designs, coloring, covering the entire page, but also perforated edges. So I cannot get a new coloring book unless it follows every single one of those requirements, and probably won't even try looking until I get through a lot more of this one. But for the other ones, these all scratch the same itch. We don't need to worry about that. Oh, addendum. We're going to put this with coloring books because I don't know where else to put it. I've discovered that I love word searches. I was looking for something to do for that kind of like mindless activity while a YouTube video was playing that wasn't a mobile game. Because for whatever reason, while mobile games are really addictive for me in the moment, those, match 3 puzzles or whatever, afterwards, I never like the feeling in my brain. So I switched to this that I've had for forever. I honestly don't even remember where I bought this. And I've discovered, kind of love it. Like, I can clear through so many of these in one sitting. I honestly think I'll have this filled by the end of summer break. And I was like, oh, I really hope I have some more of those. But I don't. The only thing I have more of is Sudoku. So I'm hoping that once I've finished all of this up, I can switch to Sudoku and it'll do the same thing for me. And if I do finish up all these really quickly, it's pretty simple to just recycle them and get something else just like them from the thrift store, because they're kind of all over thrift stores. So these will be my new just hanging out, brain not really there things, but also brain still kind of there. It's weird because they are puzzles. They are like slightly brain challenging-y, but like not enough to make me feel bothered when I'm just chilling out, and I end up just feeling better at the end of it. Like my brain has actually done a thing, which like it's still technically doing stuff with mobile games. I don't understand the psychology, but these make my brain feel better than the mobile games. So this is what we're going to stick with. And hello, we have come to the fabric stash. As you can see here, I have done some reevaluating and restructuring so that it fits a little bit better on the shelving, but not entirely. We still have the extras and, a mountain of mending I haven't done. But this has just been so slow because I'm at the point where the projects that are going to use up the most of this are the ones that are going to require me learning some new skills and trying out some new things. And it's a lot more nerve-wracking in sewing than it is in crochet, because if you screw something up in crochet, you can just frog it and start over and use that yarn again, good as new. If you miscut something like too small, you're screwed. So it's a lot more nerve-wracking as someone who's primarily a crocheter, but I have so many big projects I want to try. I have a lot of these like earmarked in my head for certain projects, one of which I'm hoping to tackle next month, a specific fabric. I don't even know where it is. It might be buried. Yeah, I think it's buried. But I want to turn into a skirt using the pattern from a book I got for review, because this is still a booktube channel, I swear. So this will be tackled eventually. I'm not as tempted to buy fabric as I am to buy everything else in this challenge. So the fact that this is slow shouldn't be too big of a problem. But once again, we do have some stuff that will be going to the thrift store for the same reasons as the yarn, just sensory, very slippy fabric. I cannot do very slippy fabric, especially because I'm hand sewing. I have figured out more or less how to make it work with stretchy fabrics, but slippery fabrics, I can't. I don't know what it is. So that stuff is going to be donated, and hopefully everything else can get used up in one way or another. I don't want to default to just turning everything into rags. One, because we just don't need that many rags. But I do want to try some other stuff, some other maybe even like Christmas present stuff or eco-friendly reusable around the house stuff. I just gotta like get past the anxiety of learning a new thing and, do it. I am really happy with where I'm at in my backlog tackle, not just the actual like using up of stuff and getting stuff reorganized, but also just it's working. Like, part of the reason I did this was because I knew over summer break, especially, I just wasn't going to be able to do a lot because for a myriad of personal reasons, we had to be very budget conscious this summer. And it's been fantastic because, yes, I have to be at home pretty much all day, every day for summer break. But I have a ton of stuff to do and a ton of hobbies to participate in. And it's gone so well that while we do have monthly like fun money budgets that you can spend on random, wants, not needs, I still have over a quarter of mine with only a couple days left in the month just because I haven't felt the need to buy a bunch of stuff, just because I've been coloring and doing word searches and what have you. So I am really proud of myself for that. And I'm hoping that I can tackle some new projects and get some things done to tackle, especially my crafting stashes. I still have a lot of detangling and rewinding to do with the yarn. I still have a lot of sewing projects I need to start on. I still have a lot of weird thoughts around writing that I need to break through, but I feel like I am solidly on the path for it. I feel like we are making headway, and there will come a day when I am not so overcome with stuff because I will have it under control, and just knowing that we're heading in that direction is enough for me for right now. Now, if you are in any kind of underconsumption challenge, whether it's a stash down, a TBR0, a project pan, whatever it is, please let me know. I'd love to hear about it. Do you have any stash busting techniques? Have you ever used nail polish as paint? Please let me know down in the comments below. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.